Hello everybody, it's Jamie from Old Shipping Lines, and welcome back to a new video. Today, we shall talk about the mighty story of the SS Mount Temple. Some of us know her because of the role she played during the sinking of the RMS Titanic, but not many know her full story and her tragic end. In this video, we shall cover her whole story. Her first owner would be Elder, Dempster & Co. Ltd. She would be built by the shipbuilders Armstrong Whitworth & Company Shipyard in Walker. Now, if we talk about the specifics of the vessel, the gross tonnage of this vessel would be 7,656. Her length would be 485 feet. 0 inches. She would have had a beam of 59 feet. 0 inches. The vessel had a steel hull and a pair of 3-cylinder triple expansion steam engines. She would have had 2 screw propellers giving her a speed of 12 knots. The ship was built for general cargo trade with an iron shelter deck spanning the entire length of the vessel, capable of accommodating approximately 1,100 heads of cattle. She was also equipped with modern machinery for efficient loading and unloading of cargo. Additionally, refrigerating machinery and insulated chambers were installed to transport dairy produce and chilled meat. Now the vessel would be launched on 18 June 1901. Now, when she was built, she was the largest ship ever constructed at Low Walker Yard. She completed sea trials successfully on the 19th of September 1901. During the trials, the ship maintained an average speed of 11.5 knots on the Tyne, despite very unfavorable weather conditions. Following this, she was handed over to her owners and promptly set sail for New Orleans. After being delivered to her owners on the 19th of September, the Mount Temple was chartered by the Imperial government to transport horses for the British Army during the Second Boer War in South Africa. She departed for her maiden voyage on the same day for New Orleans and arrived there on the 9th of October. Since she entered service late in 1901, she only completed 3 trips for the Admiralty before the war concluded at the end of May 1902. After her final trip to South Africa, she resumed her regular commercial service. After the war in South Africa ended, the Mount Temple returned to England and reached South Shields on July 6, 1902. Her first commercial voyage began on August 27th, sailing to New Orleans without cargo. The ship arrived at her destination on September 15th and loaded cotton, wheat, and lumber before departing for Liverpool via Le Havre on October 1st. While leaving the port of New Orleans, the steamer ran aground outside the South Pass but was successfully refloated the next day to continue her voyage. On the 24th of February 1903, while Mount Temple was still en route, it was announced that the Canadian Pacific Railway acquired 14 steamers from Elder, Dempster Shipping, serving mostly on Beaver and Elder lines, for £1,417,500. After completing all the transfer requirement, the Mount Temple underwent a refit to accommodate a large number of passengers. The Marconi Company also equipped her for wireless telegraphy with the call sign MLQ. Following these modifications, the vessel was also reassessed at 8,790 gross registered tons. The Mount Temple set sail from Liverpool on the 12th of May 1903. With 12 cabin passengers and 1,200 steerage passengers headed for Quebec City. She also carried around 1,000 tons of general cargo bound for Montreal. On her return to Liverpool on the 10th of June, the ship brought back a cargo that included over 1,000 heads of cattle, as well as wheat and hay. Throughout the navigation season on the St. Lawrence River, in November of that year, the steamer completed 5 more voyages between Liverpool and Montreal. Her voyages involved transporting general cargo and immigrants from Europe to Canada while returning with cattle, foodstuffs, and lumber. She was subsequently reassigned to the London-Antwerp-Canada route, serving St. John and Halifax in winter seasons and Montreal in summers. In November 1907, the Mount Temple departed from Antwerp bound for St. John, carrying a substantial cargo of around 6,000 tons and 633 passengers. Under command of Captain Boothby and a crew of approximately 150, the ship encountered adverse weather conditions after passing Cape Pine on December 1st. As visibility worsened due to snow squalls, the second officer, Griffith Owen Lewis, took over the watch from the captain around midnight. Between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock on December 2nd, the vessel encountered increasingly severe snow squalls, reducing visibility drastically. At approximately 2:35, the lookout spotted a light ahead, which Lewis misinterpreted as another vessel approaching. In an attempt to avoid a collision, he maneuvered the ship, but at 2:44, the Mount Temple struck the rocks of West Ironbound Island, causing significant damage to the hull and extinguishing the engine room fires. The impact was followed by a massive tidal wave, further endangering the ship and its passengers. Despite sending distress signals, rescue efforts were hindered by the rough weather until the following morning. When daylight broke, it became evident that the Mount Temple was lodged on the island's ledges, with a considerable distance separating it from the cliffs. Given the perilous situation, the crew devised a plan to safely evacuate the passengers. They secured a cable from the ship to the cliffs and began transferring people in a basket attached to the cable. As conditions improved, lifeboats were employed to expedite the rescue operation. Assistance arrived in the form of fishing vessels, schooners Hazel and Guide, and the tug Trusty. By December 3rd, all passengers had been successfully relocated from the Mount Temple to the island, with 150 of them transported to Bridgewater by the tug Trusty. The remaining passengers spent the night on the island and were safely transported to Halifax the following day by the Canadian government steamer Lady Laurier. After the Mount Temple ran aground on West Ironbound Island, she remained in a perilous position, seemingly impossible to dislodge. However, a stroke of luck occurred when a new storm on December 6th shifted the ship approximately 20 feet closer to the island, significantly improving her situation. Despite being stranded for the winter, the Mount Temple endured the subsequent storms without sustaining further damage. In February 1908, 3 attempts were made to refloat the vessel, all of which were unsuccessful. However, on April 15, 1908, after months of efforts, the ship was successfully refloated. She managed to navigate under her own power to Lunenburg, marking the end of her ordeal. On January 18, 1912, the ship Mount Temple, under the command of Captain Moore, came across the SS Dart while traveling from Halifax to London. The SS Dart was drifting without control due to a broken rudder and was located about 800 miles east-northeast of Halifax. The Mount Temple stayed nearby overnight, but didn't manage to secure towing cables. Ultimately, they had to abandon their efforts to assist the Dart and continued their journey the next day. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, she would have had a role to play during the sinking of the RMS Titanic. On April 3, 1912, the Mount Temple departed from Antwerp on her routine voyage to St. John, New Brunswick. Captain James Henry Moore commanded the steamer, which carried 1,466 passengers, primarily in steerage, along with a crew of 143. During the night of April 14th through 15th, Mount Temple's wireless operator, John Durant, was preparing to end his shift when he intercepted a distress signal from the sinking RMS Titanic. At around 11 minutes past midnight ship's time, the message contained an incorrect distress position of 41 degrees 44 minutes north, 50 degrees 24 minutes west. Durant promptly relayed the message to the bridge and acknowledged receipt to Titanic's wireless operator, Jack Phillips. However, Phillips had difficulty hearing Durant's call due to the noise of steam blowing off from Titanic's funnels. Despite this challenge, Durant ensured that his communication did not interfere with the ongoing exchanges between Titanic and other vessels assumed to be closer to the scene of the disaster. Upon receiving the distress call from the sinking RMS Titanic, Captain Moore of the Mount Temple was awakened and swiftly assessed the situation. Despite standing orders to avoid icebergs, he made the decision to initiate a rescue operation. Immediately, he ordered the ship to change course, heading north-northeast at an estimated speed of 11.5 knots towards Titanic's last reported position. Even at full speed, it would take around 4 hours to cover the distance between his ship and the Titanic. After Captain Moore of the Mount Temple initiated the rescue operation towards the Titanic's reported position, he had his off-duty crew awakened and briefed, and ordered the 20 lifeboats aboard to be uncovered. Ropes, ladders, and lifebelts were prepared, and extra lookouts were posted to help avoid icebergs in the area. Progress was initially smooth, but around 3 o'clock on April 15th, the ship encountered a large ice field, causing her to slow down and become surrounded by pack ice. At this time, the Mount Temple encountered what appeared to be a schooner with a single green light, which went unidentified and prompted the ship to take evasive action. This green light might have been a rocket or flare launched by either the Titanic survivors or the RMS Carpathia, rushing to the rescue. With the ice accumulation increasing, the Mount Temple halted her progress around 14 nautical miles short of Titanic's last reported position at around 3:25 a.m. and drifted through the ice field until daybreak. By 4:30 in the morning, the Mount Temple reached Titanic's last known position, but found no trace of survivors or wreckage. After waiting for about half an hour, Moore attempted to find a passage through the pack ice, initially heading south-southeast before reversing course to north-northwest, shadowing the western edge of the ice pack. Between 6 o'clock and 6:30, the Carpathia, under Captain Arthur Rostron's command, was sighted to the east, and the SS Californian was observed to the north, cutting across the ice field from east to west. At 6:52 after sunrise, Moore took a prime vertical sight of the sun to determine his position and realized he was several miles east of Titanic's reported longitude. Using dead reckoning, he concluded that the actual location of the Titanic's accident was about 8 miles further east, across the ice field ahead. After the Mount Temple failed to receive a response to its wireless request to the Carpathia, she encountered the SS Californian at around 8:30, just as the Carpathia was completing the rescue of the last survivors. The Carpathia reported picking up 20 lifeboats at 8:31 and indicated at 9:26 that there was no further need for assistance. Following this, Captain Moore of the Mount Temple ordered the ship to reverse course and continue her voyage to New Brunswick. Upon reaching St. John on April 19th, Captain Moore was summoned to both American and British inquiries into the sinking of the Titanic. Upon arrival in Canada, the Mount Temple became embroiled in controversy as some passengers, and allegedly some crew members, claimed that the ship was close to the Titanic but failed to come to her rescue despite seeing distress rockets and witnessing her sinking. However, these claims were disregarded by both the American and British inquiries. with none of Mount Temple's officers testifying or providing affidavits to support these allegations. Captain Moore himself testified that no passenger could have seen such events, as no one would have been on deck at midnight to witness the distress signals. Over the years, efforts have been made to create further controversy surrounding Mount Temple's role in the Titanic sinking, often in an attempt to divert blame from the Leyland liner Californian, which was likely closer to the scene and whose officers reported seeing rockets over an unidentified ship they were observing. In November 2020, the controversy surrounding Mount Temple's alleged role in the Titanic disaster was reignited by the PBS program Abandoning the Titanic, a part of the Secrets of the Dead series. Co-produced and co-written by journalist and Titanic author Seanan Maloney, the program repeated old claims and introduced new ones regarding Mount Temple's actions during the disaster. The show suggested that Mount Temple was much closer to the Titanic when the distress signal was received, and claimed that she approached to within 5 miles of the Titanic before Captain Moore decided to retreat to avoid the risk posed by the surrounding ice field. Additionally, it asserted that Mount Temple matched the appearance of the mystery ship observed from Titanic, as later confirmed by the commander of the raider responsible for sinking of the Mount Temple during World War I. The program concluded that the captain of the SS Californian, Stanley Lord, was unfairly criticized for failing to reach the Titanic, while it was actually Mount Temple's master who abandoned the doomed liner's passengers and crew to their fate. In January 2021, a group of renowned Titanic historians and authors released a rebuttal paper titled Abandoning the Titanic, Abandoning Reality, The Truth About the SS Mount Temple, challenging the claims made in the PBS program Abandoning the Titanic regarding the role of the SS Mount Temple in the disaster. The paper refutes the notion that Captain Moore of the Mount Temple should be held responsible for abandoning the Titanic and her passengers. Contrary to the assertions made in the program, historical evidence demonstrates that Mount Temple was approximately 49.5 nautical miles away from the Titanic's distress coordinates and roughly 60 miles from the actual location of the disaster. This distance was too great for those aboard Titanic to see the Mount Temple and vice versa, especially given the limited visibility conditions at the time. Captain Moore and his crew made earnest efforts to reach the Titanic, but they only managed to approach the western side of the ice field, separating them from the wreck site approximately 2 hours and 40 minutes after the Titanic sank. There was no way that she could have reached the Titanic in time to carry out a rescue. She did not abandon Titanic. Now in 1913, the ship would ground again. On September 24, 1913, the Mount Temple departed Montreal at 5:20 for her regular voyage, loaded with a significant cargo of grain bound for London, along with general cargo destined for Antwerp. Under the command of Captain Moore and with a pilot on board, the ship encountered foggy weather upon departure. However, shortly after setting sail, the vessel veered off course too far south and ran aground opposite Maisonneuve at 5:35 on the mudbanks of Longueuil. Despite immediate dispatch of 10 or 11 tugs, efforts to refloat the ship were unsuccessful. Over the next day, attempts continued, with some of the ship's general cargo being partially discharged to lighten the load. However, as cargo was removed from the forward holds, the stern of the ship sank deeper into the mud, necessitating the unloading of the aft holds to balance the ship. Additionally, water ingress indicated damage to the bottom plates from the grounding. The Mount Temple was eventually floated on the morning of September 26th, hand-taken to dock for unloading of its cargo of grain. The situation was compounded by limited grain discharging equipment in Montreal, a port primarily focused on grain exports. After nearly a week of unloading, Mount Temple underwent repairs and was released from the dry dock on October 12th. Now, during World War I, the Mount Temple kept trading on her route until Great Britain joined World War I on the 2nd of August 1914. She reached London on the 5th of August, with her regular cargo from Montreal, but on the 12th of August it was announced that the steamer was requisitioned together with many other large commercial vessels by the Admiralty to serve as a food and troop transport. In this new role, she sailed between England and France, transporting troops and provisions. During the war, she was defensively armed with a 3-inch naval gun on her stern. In August 1915, it was announced that Allen Line steamships and Canadian Pacific Railway had merged to form a new company called Canadian Pacific Ocean Services Limited. Consequently, the Mount Temple, which had been requisitioned by the British Admiralty, was released back to her commercial service in October 1915. After her release, the Mount Temple carried approximately 1,200 German prisoners of war who were captured during the Battle of Loos from France to England before sailing to Montreal. The ship arrived in Montreal on the 28th of October 1915. Now, on one voyage, the Mount Temple departed, on the 3rd of December 1916 for Brest, and then continuing to Liverpool. The ship was under command of Captain Alfred Henry Sargent and had a crew of 109. The ship carried a cargo of 710 horses and 6,250 tons of goods, including 3,000 tons of wheat, 1,400 cases of eggs, and several thousand cases of apples, among other things. Also on board were 22 wooden crates of dinosaur fossils from the Badlands of Alberta collected by American paleontologist Charles H. Sternberg en route to Sir Arthur Smith Woodward at the British Museum's Natural History Department. The SS Mount Temple was captured by the SMS Muir approximately 620 nautical miles off Fastnet on the 6th of December 1916. Despite appearing outwardly as a cargo ship, the SMS Muir intercepted Mount Temple and initiated a confrontation by firing a shot across her bow. Mount Temple's gun crew responded, but Muir's superior firepower quickly silenced their gun, hitting the funnel and the boat deck in the process. Tragically, 3 crew members aboard the Mount Temple lost their lives in the brief battle, while a 4th was wounded and later died on board the SMS Muir. Following the capture, over 100 crew and passengers were evacuated from the Mount Temple before the vessel was scuttled using explosives around 6 o'clock. On the 12th of December 1916, individuals captured from the SS Mount Temple were transferred to the captured British ship Yarrowdale. They eventually reached Swinemünde, Germany, on the 31st of December. The American citizens among them were released in early March 1917, as the United States was neutral at the time. However, the remaining individuals were interned as prisoners of war.
And that marks the end of a video, my friends. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now, if you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing to the channel, as that would help out the channel a lot. Now, if you have any thoughts, comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section down below, as I absolutely love reading your comments. And please let me know in the comment section down below as well what ships you would like me to cover in the future. Now be as well sure to check out our social media pages. We are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, and we also recently have a website, oldshippinglines.com, where we have articles of the ships we cover and we have book reviews as well. I think you will enjoy the website very much. Now, with that out of the way, guys, I wish you all a good night or day, wherever you are. Stay safe, stay happy, and we will see each other on the next video. Goodbye, my friends.